everybody. Welcome DFINITY, welcome people from the community who are watching this on YouTube. I'm Bas. I lead the internal developer experience team in DFINITY, and so we make sure that the implementation of the IC can be developed and built and tested and eventually released. And today I have the honor of presenting the last global R&D of this year. So next week are the holidays, and so this last global R&D will be a bit special. We will look back at the current year and see, what we have accomplished as a foundation. What we will see how the Internet Computer has grown, and we'll see updates from the ecosystem and from our communities. So let's look at our agenda. Like I said, we have some updates from the growth of the IC and from the foundation, and let's immediately jump to metrics and see how the IC has grown. Carl, please take it away.
Thanks, Bas. I appreciate it. This is always one of my favorite global R&Ds to do, because when you start looking back at the end of the year, you can kind of, having that chance to zoom out really helps paint the picture of all the excellent activity that's happened. If we go to the first slide, I'm going to just throw as much data as everyone as I can, hopefully in a nice, fun format that helps paint a pretty clear picture. And always start off with the top metric that ICP should be interested in, and that's the amount of ICP burned. This year we burned 1.6 million ICP. That's almost a 200% increase over last year. I'm sure by the time we finish out this year, we'll get over that 200% increase. So really fantastic, phenomenal growth charts when you look at the amount of burning that we're doing. Obviously, the burning apps like Bob have obviously contributed to it, but you just see it across the board, a lot more ICP getting burned and a lot more reasons for ICP to be burned as we move forward. I want to put in there a little, sometimes I forget that sending transactions is a way to also burn ICP. And so we burned over 1,000 ICP with just the transaction fees. If we go to the next slide, paint a good picture of what that looks like. So 1.5 billion ICP was transacted this year. That's an increase of 42% over last year. And that happened over 13.4 million transactions. Again, and that's actually almost, that's up 78% from last year. So we're seeing a lot more movement of ICP. Average transaction, if you just divide those two numbers, you get to 105 ICP. So, just about at today's prices, what is that, like $3 per transaction or so, $300 per transaction or so. Really nice to see those numbers increase. Going to the next slide. All right, so net canisters created. So this is the difference between number of new canisters created versus canisters that have died off. Whether the developers stopped paying the canisters or they actually intentionally took them down. We saw almost 120,000 new canisters created. Last time I checked, we were at 995,000 active canisters. So hopefully on pace to pass that 1 million mark. I think that'd be a nice way to celebrate before the new year. So we'll see how these next 2 weeks play out. We go to the next slide. All right, new internet identities actually not quite yet to 250,000 for the year. Hopefully we can get to that 250,000 number, which is awesome. Obviously with Caffeine, using internet identity as one of the authentication methods that a developer can use. We should hopefully start seeing, as Caffeine apps get more and more traction, we see this number increase as well. And you actually do see in July, I don't know if this is necessarily related to the waitlisted release of Caffeine, but you saw July was the greatest number of internet identities created in the month of, or any month in 2025. All right, moving right along. So here we go. So another way to measure the network is how much data is being stored within the network. We saw it go from just around 7 terabytes to 10 terabytes now, an increase of 3.1. And this is one where you just see the second half of this year, most of that gain is where we saw most of it. So 83% of that 3.1 terabytes was gained since July. And so I think that that's one that we're starting to see some pretty rapid growth in, and that's obviously exciting. That comes back to that ICP burn, as obviously you have to keep paying to keep your data hosted on ICP. So really positive there. Next slide, please. CKBTC. I've mentioned in a few previous ones, CKBTC is by far the biggest success story for the CK tokens. We saw 182 new CKBTC come onto the network, or a net change of 182 for the TVL. That off the top of my head was at $18 million. So nice positive increase. Out of that, you saw CKBTC being used in 1.4 million transactions throughout 2025, totaling 870,000 in volume. It's been a while since I looked at this. It's been a few months, but if you go back, when I did look into this put CKBTC as the fourth most used. If you kind of bucket it with other, what you might call Bitcoin synthetics like WBTC, TBTC, CBBTC, CKBTC was the fourth most used, which is great from online transactions or on-chain transactions. All right, next slide. All right, talking about the protocol, 67 new protocol releases this year. That's a little more than one a week, which is great. Almost getting to that 1.5, a little more than 1.25. And then 4,200 NNS proposals. That is, what is that, like 14 per day? So that's really cool to see. It certainly keeps the NNS participants active. And then next slide. And then I think this might be the final one I have, and I wanted to end on, because the staking on the NNS is something that maybe we have not highlighted as much in the past. But you saw the NNS increase by 4.5 million ICP. That's a net increase. So when you take what dissolved off over the year and then what was newly staked, that difference is positive 4.5 million. This is, I think, the first year in ICP's history in which we saw this number grow, because it's a sign that basically anyone who was part of the Genesis group that was dissolving, they've now completely dissolved out, as well as there's still a lot of interest in joining the NNS, joining the governance of ICP. You see that number right there, 8.6 million ICP is the increase in the 8-year gang. Really, you almost see no dissolving within the 8-year gang. Nobody decides to start that dissolve, and yet you still, and in addition to that, you see more people bringing ICP in. So I think that's really positive for the direction of the NNS and governance on ICP. And Boz, I think that's me done. So I'll hand it back to you and just wish everyone Happy New Year.
Sorry, yes, I was muted. Yeah, thank you, Carl. It's great to see these big numbers. And I'm personally proud to see that we do like one release per week, at least one release per week. That's very cool to see. So on to platform engineering. So the platform is everything that, all the infrastructure that is needed to develop and build and run the IC. And Maria is going to tell us everything that happened in the last year.
Thanks a lot, Bas. Hi, everyone. So let's take a look back at 2025 for the platform engineering. And let's start with basics, with infrastructure. I think for infra, the biggest highlight and achievement is to just run all the infra smoothly. And to just highlight how big the achievement is, I wanted to stress that our infra supports actually quite a few different things, from ICP DFINITY nodes that run in production to ICP dashboard, the testnets that we run across different data centers that are mainnet-like, developer environments, observability stack that helps us from 3 different locations, that helps us to keep a good eye on the network. Some of the boundary nodes that we run also in our data centers, and of course, all this networking that connects this all together. And speaking of locations, we have 4 infrastructure data centers and 3 data centers with ICP nodes that DFINITY runs in production. And I think the biggest highlight of last year was a lot of optimizations of the data center and hardware. A lot of things were moved to consolidated, and lots and lots of other infrastructure maintenance improvements and optimizations are ongoing. So kudos to the team to keep this all running smoothly. Next slide. And the same goes for internal, actually not only internal, that we'll see later on the slide, developer experience. If the CI is fast, as coverage is good, I think that's already a big achievement. I think some of the other things that I wanted to highlight is the team also provided good insights and support for mainnet-like performance tests that helps different protocol teams have a good understanding of the new changes and test them thoroughly. And also speaking of not only internal developer experience, the team also enabled simplified and secure artifact uploads and build determinism checking. So the community is actively involved in checking the releases, verifying them, also verifying the builds. So this tooling simplifies the life, and we would like to thank community for helping us with that. And the last but not least is that as we speak now, we enable accepting external contributions now to the IC GitHub repository. So we invite the community members to join us and submit their contributions. I think this is very exciting. Next slide. One of the other, not only developers and community, but also node providers are an important part of ICP. And I think the highlight in that space was releasing and launching performance-based node rewards based on the success rate of making a block for every node. With that, of course, so this is already in production, and we started this month from mid-December counting the rewards based on that. So first distribution will happen in January. Hopefully it all goes well. Of course, with releasing this, we had to provide better tooling for node providers. We released limited HostOS console to give them more insights and also diagnose bad performance if that happens, and observability stack. But also to just swap a low-performing node, they don't need to submit a proposal anymore. For the same nodes in the same data center, they can just swap the nodes in the registry, in the subnet, seamlessly without a proposal. And of course, also we work on the tools for better key management for node providers as well. Next slide, please. Yeah, regarding boundary nodes, we gave Canister developers more insights in the Canister access logs. We revamped custom domains. It's better user experience, but also in the back end, it's more reliable, more simple. And then as a first step for trusted execution environment, we enabled secure execution environment for HTTP gateways together with remote attestation. So it provides both integrity and confidentiality for the boundary infrastructure. And the next slide. And not only this, last but not least from me, as you heard in one of the previous global R&Ds, we do have SCV-enabled nodes, replicas, also live on the mainnet. We have 5 now at the moment, 1 in subnets, and we're also switched on and off from subnets, multiple times upgraded. So we're working on recovery mechanism to actually be able to recover the full SCV-enabled subnet, since no one, including DFINITY, would have access to any of the nodes running in a subnet. So we need to be smart about how to recover such subnet. And the next step, hopefully next year, we're going to enable a full SCV subnet with remote attestation. So with that, I would like to thank all the teams, the community, and node providers, and wish everyone, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Thanks, Buzz. That's all from me.
Thank you, Maria. Then we go on with Manu with core protocol engineering. Manu, take it away.
Thanks, Buzz. Hi, everybody. I'm going to try and recap some of the highlights from the protocol engineering department in 2025. I'll do it in 3 parts. One is new functionality, one is more scaling and performance, and the last is developer experience. So let's start with the new functionality. Some highlights are, I think, that HTTPS outcalls are now IPv4 enabled. So HTTP outcalls are a very important functionality that enable canister smart contracts to not just interact with other canisters, but also with the whole wide Web 2 world via HTTP. One restriction was that it only did IPv6, but now that restriction is lifted. So now you can your canister can communicate with the whole wide world. Also, canister snapshots have received new functionality. So this is a feature that you can just take a full snapshot of your canister and later restore it. But now what's new is that you can also actually get that snapshot. So you can take these, you can maybe store many of them off chain, you can use them for local testing, or you can maybe clone a canister and do testing of a copy on mainnet, maybe testing releases out before they go live. And this is also a precursor to canister migration, which is a very exciting feature that's going to come very soon. And third, a big feature are web keys that launched this year, which extend the chain key functionality of ICP with encryption, enabling canisters to manage secrets, for example, to facilitate key management. So we built like an example of an end-to-end encrypted chat client that works with internet identity, and all the key management required for this is handled using these web keys. So it's a very powerful feature. Next slide, please. Then, one more. In scalability, we did a lot of work as well. As Kyle already mentioned, the total canister memory on ICP grew very significantly to almost 10 terabytes now, which is a 50% increase just in this year. And so we did some work to make sure we can handle all of this. So we actually doubled the amount of memory each subnet can hold to now 2 terabytes. And one key thing we did there is that we moved the checkpointing to become asynchronous. So on the top right, you see that execution progress would often halt periodically when we're busy taking a huge checkpoint on a busy subnet. And now at the bottom right, you see a very nice smooth line indicating we never interrupt execution. We always keep working, and checkpointing is done in the background. Next slide, please. We also introduced bounded wait calls as a new way for canisters to communicate with each other. In the past, we only had these unbounded wait calls, which means you just wait until a different canister answers you. But now we have a new bounded wait call where you can specify a timeout. And this, on the one hand, is very useful for developers because you can build more responsive apps. You can make any call, but choose how long you're willing to wait. And at the same time, it's great for the system because they're much more performant. The system can store orders of magnitude more of such bounded wait call messages. So this is a big step in scalability also for canister-to-canister communication. Next slide, please. We also made it so that subnets can handle way more active canisters. Each canister is in its own sandbox process for security reasons. One thing we optimized is how much the memory footprint of each of those sandboxes. So the chart on the right, on the bottom here, you see that with one release, this memory usage completely dropped very significantly. And this change and other changes together enabled us to handle roughly 10 times the amount of active canisters on the subnet without hitting big performance degradation. Next slide, please. And then the third topic is developer experience. Of course, we need to make it as nice as possible to build on ICP. One big milestone is that Motoko reached version 1.0 this week, actually. It has a lot of new things, a revamped base library, simplified syntax, improved tooling. I guess you'll see the dot notation and stable functions and many more things. Also, the foundation is now core maintainer of MOPS, the package manager from Motoko. So this is in good hands. ICP Ninja made a lot of progress this year. You can now build and deploy canisters directly from your browser. You can monitor them with Cyclops because there's integration there. You can there's GitHub integration, and you can start from over 45 examples. So yeah, it's never been easier to get started as an ICP developer. Also, a lot of work went into libraries and CDKs. So new CDKs and libraries to make canister development easier, safer, more performant. One highlight here was the JavaScript libraries that received a major overhaul. They're now much more idiomatic and also have very nice standardized LLM-friendly docs hosted at js.isp.build. And we started a new path, a new direction for developer experience with the new ICP command line interface. A first beta release has just been released recently. It gives you much more realistic test environment. It's more modular. You can have starter templates and build patterns that can be shared and reused in the community. And also new protocol features like canister environment variables are already there to really support this build once and deploy many times idea. So it's hard to do all this work justice in just 5 minutes, but I'm very proud of what we achieved in 2025. Huge credit to everybody that made it happen, and onwards in 26. Back to you, Bas.
Very exciting updates, Manu. Then let's see what happened on top of the IC. Björn, please take it away.
Yeah, I want to start with DeFi. So next slide and one more. Where there's two major parts where we improved. The first one is on the cross-chain side. So on the top of that slide, you see the Dogecoin integration. So you may know the Bitcoin integration is still kind of the leading way of integrating with Bitcoin. ICP's Bitcoin integration is still ahead of everyone else in that. And so what we did, since Dogecoin is kind of a fork of Bitcoin, we applied the same type of integration to Dogecoin. That's operational, that's live. What we still want to add is CK Doge, which is kind of with the sibling then to CK BTC. So we'll get there next year. This is obviously much wow. Then another thing we launched this year is the Solana RPC canister. So similar to the EVM RPC we launched earlier, the Solana RPC canister allows any canister on ICP to make out calls to any smart contract hosted on, or any program, as they call it, hosted on Solana, enabling integration between the two chains. Then more on the token side, that's the right-hand side of the slide. One major feature we did is migrating all the ledger canisters like ICP, all the SNSs, all the CK tokens from a version which was keeping all the ledger data in heap to stable storage. Now that may seem a small change, but actually it was operationally pretty complicated because, of course, we were operating at the beating heart of the platform. We had to be extremely careful, but it also went super smooth. So I'm super proud of what the team has achieved here. We also launched multi-token Rosetta, so that will enable external entities like exchanges, custody providers that want to support ICRC1 tokens like SNS tokens, CK tokens, or any other such token on ICP. With less operational overhead, they only need to run one instance of this Rosetta protocol that is used for integrations. And then in the middle, you already heard Kyle. Radu will also go into a bit more detail. CKBTC has seen a lot of growth over this year. And one feature we have just launched this last week was the UTXO consolidation, which will enable faster and smoother conversions from CKBTC into BTC, which is, of course, not the direction that we like, but we have to have this work smoothly and quickly in order for people to go the other way and convert BTC into CKBTC. Next slide. So next up is the governance team. Next slide, please. Where we did improvements in many areas. So we improved around neurons with public and private neurons, and then the neuron index, which you can now use to iterate over all public neurons. Full rollout of periodic confirmation to enable more active participation in governance and so forth. Various improvements on usability, like dispersing maturity without spawning neurons, an address book that makes for safer token transfers, privacy mode hiding your balance if you want to do that in public, following by topic and SNSs, which is really simplifying setup for SNS neurons a lot. We improved the experience with a portfolio dashboard built into the NNS tab, showing fiat amounts and showing all your staked and unstaked tokens in one place. Then we unblocked features that have been mentioned by Maria and Manu, so I'm not going to go into detail. We enabled better liquidity management for SNSs by using SNS extensions to allow them to maintain liquidity on ICP DEXs. And last but not least, we started working on a completely new experience for the NNS frontend. Now, this is still kind of in private, but we did some amazing steps here. So I'm really, really looking forward to the day, hopefully early 2026, that we can show this new thing to the entire community. Next slide. So the last team I want to cover is the identity team. One more slide, where the entire year was really focused into what we call II 2.0, which is complete revamp, a complete rethinking of how internet identity works from where we have started in 2021. Importantly, what internet identity now supports is signing in with various identity providers that users on the internet may already be using, like Google, like Microsoft, like Apple. They can just use their existing credentials to bridge from via internet identity into any application hosted on the Internet Computer using AI 2.0. We also improved the passkey management a lot. So we were very early with supporting passkeys as primary sign-in method in 2021. Since then, the standards have evolved quite a bit, and now AI 2.0 makes use of the newest standards in order to provide a superior user experience without these identity numbers. You really just click sign in and you're in. It's super simple. Overall, the flows, we try to optimize the flows for less clicks, less distractions. So it's a lot smoother, simpler experience across the board, across many features. So this for us was really, we started this basically in the beginning of the year, and with the latest upgrades that we rolled out in December, we can really say now it's ready for all the applications on ICP to take that up. So we encourage everyone, try convert your internet identity. If you convert it, you can still use it in the old one, so you're not losing anything. But you get new features. You get features like being able to use multiple accounts in dApps based on your same internet identity without creating multiple internet identities and so forth. So it has greatly improved usability, greatly improved functionality. But just try it out. If you're a developer building an ICP, convert into AI 2.0. It's great. Congratulations to the team for achieving this. And that's it from me. Back to Bas.
Thank you, Björn. Indeed, much wow. What was also wow was the launch of Caffeine AI this year. And Lomesh, please tell us about what happened.
Super. Thank you, Bas. Next slide, please. So, hey, everyone. This is Lomesh. I lead growth at DFINITY and Caffeine now. So let's take a little bit of a journey through the memory lane now on what happened this year. So in June, we basically, Dom presented this in Zurich on stage, the first public demo of Caffeine. So this was really the introduction of what we call as the self-writing internet to the world. Now, many people are familiar with like vibe coding and a bunch of those kind of tools that are available. But I think what stands out for Caffeine is it just is not just a co-pilot or a tool where you can really vibe code stuff, but this is like a fully end-to-end stack that can enable like anyone in the world, like technical, non-technical people, to come and write fully full stack apps that live on the internet. So permissionless, tamper-proof, sovereign. So you can basically, that's the ambition and the vision. So back in June, I think one of the demos of some of you were here was the Smiley app demo, and that was basically just like an early introduction of Caffeine to the world. Fast forward a month and a half, we basically ran our first major hackathon leveraging Caffeine in SF, where we essentially gave out access to Caffeine to like an A/B test of sorts. 50% of the participants were technical, and 50% have never touched code before, didn't come from any technical background. And we saw a cohort of everyone from like lawyers to dentists to people working in public utility. They basically were able to create something that like they have been experiencing as a part of their day-to-day jobs. Imagine a lawyer who basically wanted to do, obviously knew their law practice like super well, but they didn't have any opportunity to create a technical solution out of it when they saw that people were still struggling with basic things like writing their wills and so on and so forth. So Caffeine gave them this opportunity during the hackathon to really put this together. And especially the people who had never touched code before, what they did was super, super impressive. Then we did launch our general availability on October 15th. Was covered by major media, and that was really the start of it. I think since then, I think a lot of people have been asking, when is the new features coming up? When are we launching subscriptions? When does Caffeine starts to make money? So it's a pleasure to announce. Next slide, please. That subscriptions and premium features are live as of today. And I just heard also from the grapevine that we got our first set of customers who actually ended up buying subscriptions and are paying for Caffeine. So yeah, it's a great start and super. So what with the premium feature, like subscriptions also come with a bunch of premium features. So you now have custom domains. Someone who's building an app with Caffeine and they want to reach out to their subscribe or customers, they can do an email sending, as well as like the app developers now have access to the analytics and insights about their app. So which obviously helps them understand what are the friction points, what are the things that are working well, so that they can try and optimize their experiences on Caffeine. So next slide, please. So I think overall, all in all, on the product engineering front, we did a major upgrades to Caffeine over the course of the last few months. We did major iterations in our UI. So I think all of this, we've been like very data driven towards things. So when we saw like, okay, there were any frictions in the funnel, for example, when people were trying to like make a prompt, we found that the early experience we launched with was too busy. We looked at the data and we said, okay, what is it that we would need to do to kind of try and optimize some of that? And then like we basically managed to now like pump up some of those numbers super well. So yeah, new UI, obviously we can generate apps for conversation. We launched features like speech to text, click to edit, and of course the draft to live concept was introduced. Not just on the app generation side of things, there have also been a lot of feature work on builder tools and utilities. So we have the GitHub export, as I was mentioning, analytics, custom domain, and email sending is live as of today. And not just that, I think some of it Manu also covered. So on the core infrastructure side, Motoko is 1.0. And then in order to also support Caffeine, we added, obviously in collaboration with the ICP platform team, the blob storage for large file management, so that let's say if you're building an e-commerce store and you want to upload a lot of images, like your catalog, all that goes into the IC blob storage. This is not all. I think there's a lot more interesting things that are coming in early 2026. So one of the major things that we're working on is app market and publishing. So this should really start an economy for people who are building these app market templates that they can then in turn monetize. So it would do basically two things. One, if you are a builder, you can really create these templates, and if someone else uses it, you make money. Simultaneously, it also makes it super easy for us to enable anyone and everyone to onboard on Caffeine. So imagine you're a small business. You may just come in and pick a bunch of those templates, something from, like, as an example, you might want to like a place where you can start booking tables at your restaurant, or you may want to start creating a CRM of your customers. You want maybe an ability to generate coupons and send out to your customer base. So all of these could just be readily available templates through the app market that you can just plug and play. And I think the thing that we are also super excited about is the full agentic app creation. I think there is a lot of things that people have been talking about regarding the context window and so on. This full agentic mode is going to like try and resolve a lot of those things, and we're very much looking forward to it. So I think what we do not cover in the slide right now, and I think it for a future update, but in parallel, we've been doing a lot of work, because obviously we just rolled out the premium feature. So I think now it's going to accelerate quite a bit. But there's a lot of work behind the scenes on the growth and marketing side for Caffeine. We've been doing a lot of user experiments with respect to testing out the various messaging, creative, targeting different personas as well as different geographies. So we have an experiment engine in place in the back end, and I think now we have premium subscriptions in place. I think we'll start to ramp up. So over the next few weeks, you'll see quite a bit more updates on that front. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much. Very exciting. And then on to our last update. Radu, what can you tell us about the ecosystem?
Hi, thank you so much, Bas. So if we can go to the next slide. Thanks. So when I was preparing this presentation, I was kind of looking also at for example, what Kyle has shown regarding the metrics, and I was trying to correlate it with the ecosystem. And what made me but what struck me a bit was how many all-time highs we've hit in terms of our metrics, but also our ecosystem has hit this year. So we have heard from both Kyle and Bjorn talking about CKBTC and how this year we've reached a new all-time high in terms of how many CKBTC were hosted on the IC, and how it's the fourth most transacted synthetic BTC. At some point, we actually had 34,000 daily chain key transactions happening on the IC. And I think it's important to also look at kind of what was driving this and what were the projects behind this. So we actually had quite some amazing achievements from the ecosystem this year. So Omnity Hub, who is this cross-chain bridge between the IC and the Bitcoin world, actually is the number one cross-chain bridge in terms of TVL. They have more than 550 million in TVL locked in their bridge. It's interesting because they also have other products that they're working on. They have the Omnity Runes exchange environment, and now they've launched also their own launchpad, which is called Satman. So if you're looking at this, I think you should check out what Omnity is doing and their new product Satman, because I think it's quite interesting. Then Odin.fun essentially launched, I think it was in February of this year, and from February to December, they managed to get 340,000 users and more than $1 billion in volume. I think this is quite an impressive achievement, and kudos to the Odin team for reaching these new heights. And also Liquidium, who is this lending and borrowing protocol built on the IC for the Bitcoin ecosystem, actually transitioned from their old mechanism for loans to instant loans this year. And since April, when instant loans came live, they actually managed to generate more than 200 Bitcoin in volume just for their from this instant loan feature. What is also interesting is that they're working on cross-chain lending and borrowing, which is something that they will launch relatively soon. So again, check them out. OneSec, which is also a relatively new product, is also doing cross-chain bridging between the IC and more so towards the Ethereum world. Actually bridged the ICP token to Base, and the pair of the ICP token with wrapped teeth on Base actually generated more than 10 million of volume, with ICP and other tokens, 10 million of volume in the past 10 weeks or so. And Oizy, which is our network custodied wallet, reached a 12 million TVL as an all-time high, and they managed to get 42,000 users so far. So if you can go to the next slide. The next stats that impressed me was that basically we're very close to reaching 1 million canisters deployed on mainnet. And apart from the fact that it's a round number, it also means that we have lots of projects that are deploying smart contracts and canisters on the IC. And looking at kind of what are the main drivers, there were a few projects that kind of stood out to me. So first of all, DioDi, which is this kind of like Slack alternative, so enterprise collaboration tool, basically is using the IC for their diode collaboration zone canisters, so basically group chats essentially, and they have deployed already more than 1,300 canisters, and they're growing. And they also have a program in place that will start soon. So check them out because they have some cool plans for the beginning of 2026. And FunAI, which is an innovative proof of AI work protocol that uses MAIners to kind of mine a token, actually has more than 600 miner canisters, and at some point during the summer it was responsible for 20 to 30% of the entire cycles burned on the IC network. And of course we have the OGs, the OpenChat app, that basically at the beginning of the year actually hit some very interesting all-time highs. So in January, February, OpenChat had more than 17,000 daily active users and more than 32,000 monthly active users. So I think it's interesting, and I think it shows just how much like the various type of applications that are being built on the IC, how they contribute to the metrics that we all care about. How did we do this, and kind of what support we gave from the DFINITY side in order to reach those numbers? If we can go to the next slide. So, of course, we hosted quite a lot of hackathons. What is interesting is that this year we hosted quite a lot of hackathons in partnership with other institutions. So, for example, we had a partner that was East Denver, Stacks, and 1inch. We had those very targeted hackathons, like, for example, focusing on Bitcoin DeFi. And overall, we had more than 200 submissions, and we awarded 26 winners. So those are all developers that are in the ecosystem and are building interesting projects. We have projects. We, of course, had the World Computer Hacker League that had enormous amounts of submissions and quite a lot of winners as well. And coincidentally, you will hear from one of the winners just in a couple of minutes after I finish, who will demo xFusion, which is one of the winners from the World Computer Hacker League. And if we can go to this next slide. Finally, our ecosystem got quite a lot of attention this past year in the media. We have had, for example, publications like CNN talking about Decide AI in various contexts. We had coverage in other major outlets like Bitcoin.com, Cointelegraph, and of course, our ecosystem teams appeared in various podcasts. So there was quite a lot of buzz created around teams like Onyx AI, the one that is behind FunAI, Odin.fun, Decide AI, and of course GoldDAO and Liquidium and DioDi and all the other teams. And with this, I'd like to thank you very much. I would like to thank our developers, our builders, our ecosystem, and congratulate them once again for all the cool stuff that they've achieved this year. And I'm looking forward to working with you again in 2026.
Thank you, Radu. Again, exciting numbers. And as Radu already mentioned, we have a demo from the xFusion project. I believe it's Levon.
Yes.
Levon, do you want me to take over the screen?
Okay. First of all, thank you for this call. I'm Levon, and I created xFusion along with the side products that I will present today. I'll start with the xFusion as general, like what is xFusion? Well, basically we were participating in World Computer Hacker League, and our project is allowing users to create decentralized crypto indexes with small detail. It can include different asset classes such as RWA tokens and commodities, which are tokenized commodities, like gold, or tokenized stocks, coming from different sources from different chains. So basically, we are allowing users to create bundles of those different assets of different asset classes and put them under one token, which they can buy, sell at any time, and invest in a huge variety of different portfolio variations in single trade. So it's basically our tagline was many tokens, one trade. So you bundle many tokens together and you just go and execute one trade. You get exposure to the whole portfolio. Now, I'm going to cover a few building blocks which were essential when we were building xFusion. First, those are the three. Push-based oracles, ICRC 151 token standard, and chain fusion expansion, which allowed us to build all of this in practically 3 months. I'll start with ICRC 151. Many of you are aware of ICRC 1, 2, and 3 standards. And when we started building the xFusion, we saw a minor problem because we wanted to allow users to create tokens with their own bundles, and we didn't want to obviously deploy a new ICRC 1 or ICRC 2 ledger every time user created a new bundle. And then there was a second problem. We wanted to allow a huge variety of assets coming from different chains, and it was practically a maintenance hell because we couldn't deploy, let's say, hundreds of ledgers and maintain them in a proper way. So I decided to address that problem by creating a multi-token ledger which allows anyone to create multiple tokens which are managed by a single canister. So practically, ICRC 151 allows anyone to issue as many tokens as they want and has them encapsulated in one single ledger canister. Now, that gives us huge benefits in terms of flexibility, because when I move on to the later parts of this presentation, you will see that that approach gives us ability to expand chain fusion as a technology or as a branch of Internet Computer system and advance it to a higher level because it gives us ability to have limitless bridges across the ecosystems. For instance, one single ICRC 151 canister can hold and manage hundreds of different tokens. And if someone was to create a cross-chain bridge, they would need to technically deploy one canister per one chain and have those tokens issued without any limits. And I will show you how the structure looks like. I created a small explorer for internal usage as well. And for instance, this is a canister that is handling all the tokens issued by xFusion. As you can see, we have some tokens that were created by our users. There are some that have 0 holders, so we are filtering them out. And for each of those tokens, we have the token ID, which allows us to track those tokens. We have transaction records. We have, for future development, archive a compatible structure, so we can archive the transactions and move them to transaction archive nodes, archive canisters, etc. And what you see here is powering basically xFusion at the moment, where you can go ahead and see some of the bundles that were created. You can go ahead, let's say Doge and ICP mix. endogenous ICP mix, and go ahead and let's say buy 2 tokens or well, yeah, let's buy those tokens, $2 worth of it. And that's it. Like I just bought a token with $2, and I got equal exposure to ICP and Dogecoins. Now here's the fun part. You'd ask, how did we get Doge in here, right? Or how did we get all those assets that we are allowing users to choose from? And you would see some of the assets here are the ones that are not supported by CK assets. Well, what we did was basically we built CK assets for Doge, obviously, Litecoin, BNB, AVAX, Arbitrum, like EVM chains were easy parts. We did it for Solana, and it's not published yet, but we did it for Zcash as well. And Ripple, which was one of the first integrations. Well, all of those assets that user is buying and getting exposure to is actually CK version of the or digital twin of original asset living on original chain. And we actually published a verification page, which is using packages published by DFINITY and allows anyone to verify independently that those assets are in fact under Canister's control. So you can go ahead on xFusion.finance, see the verification page, and there's an open source repo which you can use to verify that all of those assets are in fact under Canister control. Now we will get back to the presentation. Regarding ICRC 151, which was one of the pillars of this project, because we needed that to issue multiple tokens without any complications on DevOps side. You can try it out. It's open source and I would say very well documented. It's standard. And I will drop a small news as well. Well, yesterday I also reserved ICRC 161, which is built on top of ICRC 151 and allows us to issue permissioned or gated access enabled tokens, which will be widely used for RWA projects. I'll move on to the next part, which is the second pillar of xFusion and its xFusion oracles. Only you might be aware that there's such a thing called exchange rate canister, which is maintained by DFINITY Foundation and allows users or developers to fetch the prices of assets listed on different exchanges. So basically, it's an oracle canister, but we saw one problem, which that canister wouldn't resolve for us, and it was having live prices on chain for every moment in time, because technically we couldn't go and wait for exchange rate canister to fetch prices of 10 or 15 assets in order to calculate the net asset value of a bundle token. But what we did is we built xFusion Oracle, which provides the real-time price feeds from Peace Network to Internet Computer. And the thing about it is that it's been working without any interruptions since the launch. And it's also not open source, but it's free to integrate. We are allowing anyone to come and integrate with with our oracles. And currently we have around 64 price points, but we can add additional ones on demand. You can also see the documentation of xFusion oracles and see the live feeds, and all that lives again on Internet Computer. You're using stable structures. Nothing is erased at any point in time, and that can be used for many different purposes. And one thing we are planning to publish is the ability for anyone to prove that these prices are coming in effect from peace networks that will erase all the trust questions about the price sources. Now, this one is something that is again one of the pillars of xFusion, but it was not visible up to this point. In time, in the background, how we do things is quite similar to 1-inch Fusion Plus. And Radu mentioned the hackathons. Actually, I got this whole idea after Unite DeFi hackathon, which was 1-inch hackathon. And they basically took the best practices that they have and made it, ported it to Internet Computer. So how those trades are going through, in fact, is that we have the solvers running in the background, which are picking up the user's request to, let's say, buy a mix of Apple stocks, Google stocks, Tesla stocks, and I don't know, Uniswap tokens. And those solvers are catching it, providing their quote, and then our coordinator API is choosing the best quote and executing the trade. Now, our intention for remaining weeks of 2025 is to launch that as a separate platform, I would say. We call it xFusion Intents at the moment, where we would directly compete with near intents, because it's in our case we are using again chain key cryptography, and we are more native to the blockchain that we are hosting it on than near intents, which is technically quite centralized in nature. So our next plans, and we are already started some minor silent campaign, is to launch the xFusion Intents, where we would do exactly what near intents does, but we would use chain key cryptography to achieve many parts of the of this system. So initially we are launching with Bitcoin, EVM chains, Zcash, which is for marketing purposes more than actual usage, but still it's a good marketing. Solana, and of course ICP tokens. So yeah, that was me actually. And I saw one question. I want to take my chance to answer that. No, Marco almost answered it. Yeah, but rebalancing is not done. I don't believe that rebalancing is, at the moment of building at least, I didn't believe that rebalancing was a good way. Actually, last month we finished the development of rebalancing tokens. However, we didn't launch it because we need to make sure that we are taking very, very good sources of the tokens, or not the tokens, but the indices that are being published by other sources. So technically, we are planning to launch the CMC in MarketCap 20, and some of the if the index is from S&P Global. But that's not going to be live till like, probably occasional rebalancing, but there will be 4 Sun tokens. That's that.
Great, thank you, Levan. That's very interesting demo. And with that, we've reached the end of the last Global R&D of this year. Thank you to all the speakers, and well, Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays and Happy New Year, and see you all back in January.